And I'm Jenny. Today we have the privilege of interviewing our current and our former mayor of Orrville. We are very excited, of course, that they are here to join us. And welcome, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Thanks for asking us.
So, Dave, you were mayor for like 16 years, is that right?
16, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's 4 terms, yeah.
Is that the limit on mayor?
Is there a term limit?
Well,
if there was a
there
term.
are some cities that are. This one in particular isn't.
Okay.
So I just decided 16 was probably enough.
Sweet 16, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah. Don't want to wear out your welcome, so.
Well, for both of you, this is for both of you, what made you get into, or what was your first interest in local politics?
I wasn't interested in it at all. I was teaching school at the time, but our current mayor back then at the time, and this goes farther back than when I became mayor because I was on council for 18 years before that.
Wow.
But Howard Wade was mayor then, and he stopped over at Maple Street School, which Matt and I both taught there, and it's no longer there. But he peeked through the curtain because I had a gym class, and he said, "Hey, come over here." He said, "Would you be interested in being on city council?" It's like, yeah, I guess. Didn't think too much about it, but I thought that would be kind of interesting because I'm always asking people I know that work for the city, hey, why are we doing this or what are we doing? And so I was actually replacing a classmate of mine, Jim Bolin, that was moving out of state, who was on council, and he had 2 more years left on that term. And so I filled out the rest of his term and then ran again as a council ward position, Ward 3, and then went on after that, ran 3 times for council president. So,
Okay.
but that's how I got on. Yeah, the
Okay.
mayor asked me to back then.
Okay. And Howard, you said he had been on a mayor for a long time too. I was looking at the city's website and the history, and
Yeah.
he had been mayor for
Yeah, I think-
almost as long as you had?
Yeah, almost. I think 12, 14 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when I looked at the history of all the Orrville mayors, the first 100 years there was a mayor about every other year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
since I was born in 1967, just like a handful. So we've had some very long-term mayors since then.
So what brought you to politics?
Okay. It's probably just been a journey over time. I was born in Orrville. My first job was a lifeguard at Orr Pool. I became the manager and actually went to City Hall a lot, doing the timesheets and that type of thing. So I always knew the mayors. I knew Howard Wade and Denny Steiner and Dave, just from the background perspective. But I was a teacher and then became a principal in Massillon. And it was always my goal to be like a superintendent or something like that. And then I was able to retire a year and a half ago with 32 years in education, knowing that I was going to do something else. And on my last day of my contract was the end of June, I went to the Orrville parade and saw the other candidate had already made a commitment to run for mayor, and that kind of got things going for me. I called the mayor and asked him if he was retired, and he said yes. So it's kind of been a journey. Over the past year and a half, I couldn't really say the word politics too much, but
Yeah.
but
I usually told people I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
Don't want to be anything like one.
so I feel like I've got a hands-on training in city government is what I call it. But Dave has been a great mentor through the whole process. So. And we actually taught together. He was actually my track coach at one point, so
Yeah.
we felt this transition is more of like passing the baton right now. So,
His dad was my track coach, so.
Wow.
so
I feel like this is very Orrville and
Yeah.
how everybody has so many
Yeah.
connections and knows each other and everything.
For sure.
Yeah.
but Dave definitely left at the height of his career, so I feel like he probably could have went a couple more years. So, but I'm trying to catch up right now.
Yeah.
So after about 3 weeks. So.
Now, my wife was pretty much ready for me to be done. So
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, excuse my ignorance, but is mayor a full-time job, or do you have a job outside? I mean, I know that you just retired from teaching, but if you were not, if let's say you were still teaching, could you be mayor and teach at the same time, or is the commitment too large that you wouldn't be able to do both?
If you could make it work, really it's a part-time job with a full-time commitment.
Okay.
And when Howard Wade was mayor, he was able to do another similar job. But
and he was in education.
Yeah.
Howard was, and he was with the high school when he retired. I had him at the junior high, but that was a long time ago. I don't think you could do that now and do a very good job of it, because there's just too much that happens during the day that if you're not there, whether it's signing papers or whether it's somebody popping in to talk about an issue they're having, and that happens even more than you would think. I can't believe how many times I was away at a meeting and I would come back and Gene would say, "Oh, so-and-so stopped in to see you." And I was like, oh, man. You know, it's almost like they have radar. They know you're leaving, so they're going to come down. So, and you feel bad about missing them when they stop in. So,
Okay.
And then with Denny Steiner and with Dave, they really evolved it into being very present. I mean, I've been there most hours. If I'm out of the office for a couple hours, I let the staff know. But there's just so many things going on that you really need to have that full commitment. And just in my position right now, I'm able to do that.
And how long have you officially been in office?
Well, January 1.
January
Okay.
1st.
But that was the day off, you know. So January 2nd was the first official day.
So 2 weeks.
Yeah, so
So you've got it all down.
no, I'm working on it. I did go to a lot of meetings and met with Dave.
Yeah, I did.
And I was able to go in Thursday and Friday before the end of the year because Dave had a surprise. He was working right up to the clock. I mean, he was there every day. He kept going. So, and it's really just been a whirlwind. We had new city council on Tuesday, the first day, and legislation and all that was voted upon. And then by the end of the week, swore in the first police chief. Was able to do that a week after I was sworn in.
Okay.
And just meeting with different businesses and all types of things right now.
So you just jumped right into
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and then
Well,
I know that
there's no waiting period. You
Yeah.
just have to.
Yeah.
and I know that Dave's only a phone call away, but I'm
He
Try-
hasn't changed his number yet.
I'm
No,
trying to
no.
keep my skill. I'm trying to develop my skills, but
Well, yeah, everything will work out the way it needs to work out for you. But yeah, I'm always available if Matt needs to ask a question or
Sure.
something. So.
So Dave, I'm curious, what is your proudest moment during your mayorship in Orrville? What is like the thing that you're like, I'm so proud that we brought this in or made that change or whatever?
That's a tough one. I've been asked that before, and you know, at the time, everything that happened was the coolest thing that happened. You
Sure.
know, and so I don't know if it's even possible to pick out a thing. I mean, we've had simple things like an improvement at the cemetery for Memorial Day because we have now more room up there. That was something that I worked on with American Legion and the VFW, and they helped with that, and all the way to splash pad at the park and skate park and that sort of thing. So those were big things. And when I was on council, we were having some issues with roads, streets in town that just were kind of beat up. And you'll still hear that from people, which always makes me laugh because my two sons travel, and they said, you haven't seen some streets until you're, some of the other cities. So I think we've done a good job of keeping up with repaving, new paving. You know, Ella Street was a big one that used to be just all chip and seal out there with mud along the sides where people park to go to the boys club, and now that's all, you know, asphalt with curbs and gutters and parking spaces and everything. So those were big things that really made a difference for people.
So just like little things that made the town better, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. And I think really one of the, and this wasn't due to me being anything special. But one of the neatest things was within that first year, I had 3 of our directors retire. And we got along great because I knew them all while I was on council. But we had 3 major positions that needed filled right away. And here I was still getting used to things. And we were able to get 3 people in there that worked absolutely great together, and they've been good for Orrville. And so I've been very proud of how that went. And really right after that, Dan Pricing, our utilities director, which is a huge job in Orrville with our 3 utilities, he retired, and Jeff Redinger took that spot. So, we had a whole new team, and it worked out very well. Everybody got along very well together.
Yeah, I asked Dave that very same question this past summer, like, what's your biggest accomplishment? And you answered it basically in the same way. He was hesitant, but I did get a sense that his biggest accomplishment is whenever there was a concern from a citizen, he would drive out. I think you were telling me a story about someone had tracks in their yard, and you drove out and just helped them that morning. So
Yeah.
I always kept that in the back of my mind of his accomplishment. He said from the beginning that we have a great administration, and that has been verified by every meeting that I have attended ever since. So that is a huge accomplishment that has set the city up to where we are now with a great foundation.
So you're both native, or is it Orvillians, Orvillites?
I think we call it Orrvilleite.
Okay.
'Cause,
Orvillians sounds
yeah,
kind of bad,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah, I would say
Orrvilleite.
Orrvilleite because that's the
So-
more positive.
I've been called lots of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would the 2 of you say has changed the most in Orrville, just like from the time from like when you were maybe just in grade school on, that is just completely like astounding, that has just changed so much? Has there been big changes that you're just surprised by, or?
For me, it's difficult when you live here your whole life because you just get used to stuff happening and you see things happen a little bit at a time. Where you hear that difference is when you have a class reunion. We had our 50th a couple years ago, and a couple people haven't been back since high school. And they're just, I can't believe how different Orrville is. And it's like, really? It's, So it's kind of what you're used to. I think you go back to some of the new things that weren't there. I mean, the whole Smucker's facility is totally different than what it was when we were kids. Sure. And the park is so much better. But really, that park's been a gem for Orrville. That's something that our forefathers were, when they put that land out there and called it a park, that was probably out in the country back then. And now here it is kind of in the center of town and very well used and very well liked by lots of people. So,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with the changes have been gradual over time. There's just, when you think of changes, they've just always been upward and outward, and then it is different from year to year, and then you see those changes.
And, we've had new companies come in, but we still have companies that have been here for over 100 years.
But with the changes, you still want to go back to, making those personal connections. And I think now it's easier to order your school supplies through Amazon.com versus going to Beeler's or going to Rite Aid. And then you're missing those connections day to day. So I can see those type of changes we need to work with, maybe connecting a little more.
So on just a personal note, do you think that we could ever get a movie theater back in town?
That's a tender subject to a lot of people. And it happened really in my transition from council president to mayor. So the ball was already rolling. But, I mean, there's still people angry at us. And it's like, you had an opportunity to buy the theater if you liked it that much. The last time that my wife and I went down there on a Saturday night, we were the only 2 people there. And here this fella is paying somebody to be out front, selling tickets, somebody to be in the concession stand, somebody to run the movie. it was just a matter of those things died out. Now I know there's still some little communities that still have them. Probably there's nothing as close. You know, we had the one at Worcester, the one downtown before that
Right.
went up in the north end, and then when that one went in, you had a choice of 8 or 10 movies over there. So that just changed, just like the malls and all that are now empty. So many of them. So it's kind of a sad thing. But on the other hand, you had a CVS that really wanted a drive-through because they were out on that shopping center before with no drive-through, and they were willing to pay a good price for that property. And really, if I was the owner of that theater, I imagine he's pretty grateful for that, because otherwise you're going to lose your tail. But yeah, my answer to that for some people was, if you liked it that much, you should have bought it because it was for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with we lost bowling alleys and
Yeah.
and movie theaters
Yeah.
and different businesses over time. If there was an entrepreneur that would want to bring it back, but you would have to do your research. Is it fiscally responsible, or can you attract people to come? So, so with movies,
Yeah.
I would say maybe we could show movies like an auditorium or something like that. But unless there's someone that would want to develop that or have an idea, but yeah, unfortunately,
Well, and we've done the movies at the park in the summer,
yeah,
2 or 3. We started out with one every week, and then those are expensive. I mean, depending on what one you got, if it was a Disney one especially,
Oh, yeah.
it was hundreds of dollars for that night. And the thing of it is, people can go get that movie and have it at their house, or
They
they
can-
already do, or they
yeah.
see it on TV a dozen times. So that's all changed too. You know, I mean, think back of when we went to the video store to get a movie.
Oh, yeah.
That was big stuff. Well, now those are out of business too.
Right.
So stuff just changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in Illinois, and every time I go out to my hometown, I feel like everything has changed too. And my mom still lives there, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's just this," because, like you said, you don't notice the gradual changes.
Right.
But when you're not there, and then you come back, and there's certainly like nostalgia for the things that used to be, and there are plenty of people who will remember the movie theater or the bowling alley or whatever. But
I saw my first movie at the Orrville movie theater.
Yeah.
Jungle Book, 1977, I think.
so
I was out of high school by then. My goodness.
and I think in 1978 I watched Smoking the Bandit.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've noticed about Orrville is there are a lot of people here who are very passionate about the town. And I would imagine in your position that you would get to meet a lot of those people. And some of those people are on council or they're in like important positions, and some of those are just citizens.
Sure.
I think that's one thing, and I don't know if other small towns are this way, but I feel like Orrvilleites are proud of Orrville.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't do a lot of traveling, but I visited like all 88 counties a couple years ago. And I just really feel like we just have something special. You know, like the parade, the fireworks,
Oh yeah.
you know, the day after Thanksgiving, home for the holidays. You know, those are really special things that not every town, even bigger towns, do those sort of things. It's just really
Well, and those
special.
are things that happen because there's people that are willing to do those.
Sure.
I mean, even as a city function, that's, you take away the fire department or the firefighters association, and all that 4th of July stuff goes away.
Right.
Same with Home for the Holidays. If you didn't have some people that were willing to take that bull by the horns and reorganize that,
Yeah, because it almost did end.
you know
a
what,
couple
it
years
did,
ago.
yeah, it did. And it's successful. I mean, it's amazing how many people will line up to get a hot dog after the day after Thanksgiving.
It's a free hot dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was more excited about Santa arriving at
Yeah, yeah.
Smithhorst and Homestead. But Dave and I have both been on the campaign trail on different years, but knocking on doors and meeting, you know, different residents of Orrville. I mean, at one point I could describe it as Orrville's full of treasures. I knocked on the door and learned that my first grade teacher is a painter. I mean, she paints, and I looked at her paintings. So there's so many people that have so much to offer that it is makes us special here.
Would you say that majority of the population of people that grew up here pretty much stay here, or about half and half?
You know, you hear different stories on that. A few years back, all we were hearing is about everybody leaves town. You know, there's nothing to hold them here. And yet I think of my two sons and their classes. There's a lot of people in their classes that are in town here, including those two. So when I hear people say, oh, yeah, they all leave, that kind of irritates me because they don't all leave.
Yeah.
Some do, for sure, and then that might depend on what their career is or what their job is and that sort of thing. But
The population has been pretty steady for like a decade or so,
yeah, it
hasn't
really
it?
has. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if they are leaving, then somebody else is coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I've also seen that there is a good mix because I went to some of the condo areas, and there's retired residents that are moving into Orrville from like Dalton and just around the area. So there's a little bit of a good
Oh,
mix,
sure.
and then there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
lifelong residents as well. So.
My husband grew up in Apple Creek, and when we were getting married and we were trying to decide where to live, Orrville seemed like just the right place for us because he works in Dalton, and even in Orrville here, there's there's stores you can walk to, and just like everything you kind of need, but in a nice, not too big of a town. I grew up in a very large town, like the size of Dayton, so this is much more comfortable, I think. It was good enough for us, so.
And it all depends on what people want and what they like.
Sure. So I'm curious, the murals that have been popping up throughout the years. So who's responsible for that? Is that like the people that own the building, and do they have to get like special license to be able to do that, or how does that work?
Well, I think there's two different stories on that. The first one that we did, the train engine down by the depot. That one, when you talked about do citizens get involved, Wendell Hosteller and his wife walk all over town, not as much as they did, but they still do, I think. And when that building beside the dry cleaner building, when that dry cleaner building was taken down because it had to be taken down, that one, now you had that little green space, which the city does own that now. We had to buy that dry cleaner building to tear it down. So it could be something goes in there or it could stay there. But at the time, you had that big empty wall for the building beside it. And, Wendell came into my office one day and said, you know what, it'd be great to have a big mural on there. And it would. We talked about that even before. In checking with some people on how to do that, Kristen Lorson worked with us on that too. This Ohio Outdoor that does all the big billboard signs, a lot of the big ones with electric and everything. I talked to them, and actually after talking back and forth quite a while, we got it down to, he said, well, we can do a vinyl picture of whatever you want up there. And the expense was way less than what it would have been to have someone paint something up there. And he said, that'll last you 5 or 6 years, and then if you guys want to do the same thing, you can do that, or you can put a new picture up there. There again, that whole idea came from a citizen in town, and we went with it there. The other ones I think you're talking about up here on the old Wilbert building, Daryl Mosley's done all that stuff. He bought the building and put that
Smith's
up there.
Dairy has some too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Smith Dairy probably had the first
I think they
painting.
did.
Yeah.
So that was just on their own, right? I mean, or is there like a town ordinance or
No,
anything like that?
no, that was all on them.
Okay.
They hired that thing has to get touched up a lot.
Sure.
If you get snow on the bottom that's 6 or 8 inches, then pretty soon that's peeling off, and so it's upkeep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just curious because have you ever heard of Umbrella Alley?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I went and visited that. It's a roadside attraction type of thing. It's really interesting. And I didn't know if our little town had ever considered doing anything like that because I think that alley in between to go into like the pharmacy or to Faithful Little Cupcake, I think that alley would be perfect for something like
alley,
that. And I didn't know if that had ever been approached because I think for me, I think would be great would be like a local artist just a display of local artists' work on that alley would be awesome. But I didn't know how do the wheels work to get something like that even going?
Yeah, with our current murals, I mean, it's definitely a positive trend, and that's coming from a collaboration with the city and our businesses, and even our churches have some really detailed art on them if you really look at some of them. But I think the idea of the umbrella alley was looked at, but it would, take an outside group or someone or the business owner.
I had diagrams for one of those a year or two ago. It was really cool. I mean, they did some neat things from even it wasn't just the alley left the way it was. They had different tiles all the way through. It was very, very neat. And then I looked at what it cost them, and it was $500,000.
Wow.
That, like Matt said, that's kind of the issue is.
I mean, there's definitely opportunities for art. Like
Yeah.
even
And that could be simpler.
even
Yeah.
the eagle out in front of City Hall. I mean, I look at that as art.
Yeah.
So there's different.
No, I was
mediums.
thinking like just little plexiglass things where local artists could just put in their artwork. Something like that would be like an artist alley or whatever.
And at one time, there was a block of downtown that was going to be reserved for that type of purpose, but never got off the ground. But definitely, that could be something for the future to support art.
Yeah.
I just wondered how those kind of things worked.
Sure. Well, since we are recording for the library and we're at the library, we do like to ask everybody that we talk to what they're reading right now or what like their favorite book is or favorite genre is. So if you guys want to share any of your favorite stories, well, published stories, I guess, with us,
Books.
we'd love to hear that.
Well,
Go ahead.
the most current book that I'm beginning to read is called Atomic Habits, which is like a improvement type book, and it looks like it's over 10 million copies have been sold, so I'll be able to have a conversation with someone. So I'm excited to read that book. Books have been important in my whole life because my mother was a librarian at an elementary, and I was in the summer reading program and read a lot of books going into third grade, going into fourth grade, and that helped me get a step up on grades and really successful throughout my education career. I always looked to books to like solve problems, and
I love that.
one of my favorite authors that when Mr. Handwerk was a gym teacher, as a fourth grade teacher, I would look at Judith Viorst, and she had a book. If you ever had a bad day, there's a book called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Yep.
And this is another book on money, if you ever needed advice on that. But there was another book that she wrote, was The 10th Good Thing About Barney. So if a student had lost their pet or had some type of loss, we could read that. So, and then there was another book when I was teaching math by Stephen Kellogg, How Much is a Million? And this had some really neat illustrations. And I think if you would count from 1 to 1 million, it would take about 23 days to count.
Wow.
But if you count 1 to 1 billion, it would take 95 years. So this was like a good picture. If you started to count from 1 to 1 billion, this is what you would look like. And then 95 years later, the poor dog would be in the cemetery.
There's like
So.
a little, that's fun.
But I always would go to the library, or even the libraries in our school. If there's a problem, you can solve it with a good book. So.
That's awesome.
That's great, yeah.
I'm not as excited as what Matt is. I didn't read a lot as a student. I mean, it was enough to get through the schoolwork, and I was doing sports all the time. So when you came home from football practice or track practice, you were doing homework. You weren't sitting down to read a book. I know some people would do that or could, but I just didn't. And I didn't read a lot as a teacher because I was also coaching. Then I was on council. It's like, you need to spend time with your family, not come home and sit down and say, don't bother me, I'm reading. So I didn't get to do that much then. And then as the mayor, Matt's probably finding out, you end up reading a lot during the day. You know, whether it's the gazillion emails you get or utility issues or stuff from AMP Ohio that we're members of. And so now that I have some time, I did start reading a book that was actually sent to me a couple of years ago at the mayor's office, but it's called The Last Stand by Todd Wilkinson, but it's about Ted Turner's interest in saving the planet and that sort of thing. So just kind of got started on that one.
And there is a bookshelf in the mayor's office, so
There is,
Um,
yeah.
Dave did leave a few books I have there, and as I find some other books, I'll go. I'm still making the transition from being a principal to being a mayor, because I'm still looking for the kids.
It's the same. The kids are just
discipline.
bigger.
They're bigger, and it is quieter than where I normally work.
Yeah.
But
All right. Well, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to come and chat with us. And do you guys have any other words of wisdom or anything that you want to say to the
I did kind of prepare for one question, like, what do you love about Orrville?
Oh, okay.
I would like to answer that.
Yes, please do.
Because I actually thought about it, because sometimes you do have time to think.
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
making-
Once in a while, yeah.
So, what I love about Orrville is actually Orr Park, because you can go swimming there, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Or you can, go to a concert that's really peaceful. Or you can have a heart-thumping grand finale of the fireworks. So I just thought that was special about Orrville and how it was built in the middle of town. And then even our schools surround the park. And then if you connect our railroads, it's just like we're really connected. And that's what I really like about Orrville.
Yeah, a lot of the same things Matt talked about, but mostly for me it's just been the connections that you have when you live here your whole life. I mean, I was gone when I went to Ohio State and then was back. I wasn't teaching in Orrville then, but we were living in Orrville, and so I started at Triway and was there for 10 years. But once our kids were born, it was like, I don't want to coach at Triway if my kids are going to Orrville, so I was lucky enough to get in over here. But just the people, it was fun teaching phys ed out here because I would have kids of people that I went to school with, and actually had a couple grandkids, which was really eye-opening. It's like, holy cow. So that was neat, just to have that connection with everybody. And I know anybody that comes from a small town, that's usually what you say is you like it because you know everybody, but you sure don't anymore. I mean, I constantly, it's like, oh, I never heard of that person, or I don't know that name, or there is a lot more new folks in town than what I think people realize.
But yeah, we do have, great schools, great libraries, great businesses. I've told this story many times that the first time I was a principal, I went to a neighborhood meeting and they were working, and this was in an area of, high poverty. And one thing that they said is you don't have to move to live in a better place, and you just make wherever you are a better place.
Sure.
And as we get older, as I went through my old neighborhood, it has changed because I lived on the south side of town growing up. But you have to make new friends no matter where you go. And we have a lot of great citizens to meet and talk to.
Well, thank you for inviting us, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Dawn, what do we have coming up this month?
We have the seed exchange starting March 1st today. It goes all the way through the end of May. That's an opportunity for you to come in, see what kind of seeds you might be able to pick up for your garden. And these can be flowers or vegetables or what have you. And that goes all the way through the end of May. So if you have any extra seeds or you want to come and check out what seeds there are, you're welcome to do that.
Also, the registration for the Whiz Bang Science Show is Thursday, April 4th at 6. March 11th, we'll start the registration for that. And then March 7th, 14th, 21st, we are bringing back the K through 6th grade brick builders, and that's at 4 o'clock. Those are on Thursdays.
On Friday, March 15th at 4 p.m., we'll have our first Young Writers Workshop. So we're doing 3 sessions of these. The first one's in March. There'll be one in April and one in May. This is for middle and high school students to come flex their writing skills. We did this sometime last year, and the young writers really liked it. So I'm really glad to bring that back. So that's on March 15th at 4 p.m., the Young Writers Workshop. And then on the 18th, that following Monday, you can start signing up for teen book boxes. The registration is then the 18th through the 30th, and the pickup for those book boxes will be the week of April 8th.
Easter is this month, is a little early this year, and we will be having pictures with the Easter Bunny, and that will be Thursday, March 21st. The pictures will be at 10 to noon, and then again from 5 to 7. Also, we wanted to let you guys know that the solar eclipse is happening this year, if you have not heard about that. And that's going to be so much fun. Also, we will be giving out solar eclipse glasses for people that come into the library the week before the solar eclipse. We will have activities for you to do in order to get the glasses. But the glasses will be free. They'll be simple, real easy activities to do. So if you have any questions, just give us a call.
So those activities to get those solar eclipse glasses will be the week before the eclipse, which is on Monday, April 8th. The activities, it can be coming to like the Whiz Bang Science Show, but they're as simple as getting a library card or checking out a book. So we would love to have you come in that week and get some glasses. And if you have a student who goes to the Orrville City Schools, then your student should be getting a pair of glasses. So that kind of makes sure everybody in the community can safely view that really cool total solar eclipse coming up.
Again, I am Jenny.
And I'm Dawn.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you at the library soon.